Today, I'd like to introduce you to someone I've known for a long time, and CPA, and his name's Joe Leverich. He's an outstanding CPA, does a lot of work. He's a native of Salt Lake, and he's owned the Leverich Group, a Utah-based CPA firm, for the past 30 years. His work has taken him to Alaska, to New York, Corpus Christi, Texas, throughout the United States. And he manages and supervises audits, reviews, and compilations for over 100 business clients. As a consultant in tax, management, retirement planning, and business succession, Leverich writes a monthly column, and maybe you've seen it in the Enterprise, in the Utah Weekly Business Journal. He has completed an intensive 3-year Owner President Manager course, OPM, program at Harvard Business School. His graduating class included 113 business owners from 54 countries throughout the world. He's a graduate of the University of Utah and the OPM program, and he served in the U.S. Navy. His first professional job was with a national CPA firm in Alaska. Was that in Anchorage?
Fairbanks.
Fairbanks, Alaska, okay. And he's a member of the advisory board of the University of Utah School of Accounting. He's a CPA and has business associations. And he's a master's graduate of Rappaport International. Joe's also married, has 4 children in various stages of discovering life as adults. And I'll let him tell you about that. But without, let's turn the time over to Joe Leverich.
Thank you. This is always an interesting experience because I don't do a script well, although I did hand out a handout. So we'll see how well I follow the handout. I'm here to try to find out a little bit more about you than I did initially. So how many of us are under 30? All right. And how many of us have student loans? And we'll be seeking a bachelor's or master's degree, or more, in your case. Have selected your ideal career? You know what you're going to be ideal at doing? This is an A or a B, so it's only A or B. You're in college to learn, that's A, and B is you're here to get a job, a career. Is it A? It's A for you? I know you are, but which one's most? B? Get a career? Out of curiosity, including computers, tablets, smartphones, at home, work, and life, how many of us have more than 5 of those? More than 3? So we're very tied in. Anybody here played for a team from work, military, or sport? No one's played in a team. You have? High school, yeah. Okay. And how likely are you to be leaving the state of Utah for your employment? Okay, so we're going to stay here. So one of the challenges we run into is I help my business owners find people like you to employ, to engage, and to do a job for them. And in today's The Enterprise from Ellen Reddick, she wrote a column about succeeding. And she, oops, wrong quote. What she says is nearly half of new hires, 46%, fell in the first 18 months. Fell. Dismissed, let go, gone, terminated. First 18 months. Now, as an employer, I can tell you that when you show up with that resume when it's 19 months old, I'm not very likely to engage you. Do you know why?
No experience.
What?
No experience.
Yeah, no experience. And that means you didn't get along at the other place. So here's the challenge you have. Where are you coming from? What's the experience? And this is the story I like to tell. And some of you will say, boy, I disagree with this gentleman. You have the right to. But a lot of you think you get summers off. A lot of you have never worked 52 weeks a year. A lot of you have never worked more than 40 hours. A lot of you have never been that kind of a person who we call go-to people, where I can go to you and count on, and I don't care what it takes. And if you're a go-to person, I'm keeping you. But if you have to be a go-to person and you need two people to help, probably not. And so go-to people get engaged. And how do you become a go-to person? Well, on the handout I talked about what's best college students do. And I taught a course when I first got into the University of Utah called Study Systems. And we found out some things in teaching this course and developing it that still apply today. And when you get it, if you go on to the University of Utah or another school, you're going to be in a way different situation. And what we found out in this class was the A's are like a V going backwards. So if this was a larger class, one of those ones that you might see at the University of Utah with 300 or 400 or 500 students at, the A's are right here, right here. Why might an A be sitting right there?
Closer, you can hear it, you can see what's going on.
And you have to pay attention.
Pay attention.
And what happens to those gentlemen, usually gentlemen, who are sitting on the back row with their buds, okay? They're not listening, are they? No, they're not paying attention. We're given things called homework or assignments. And is it Max? Neil. Damn it. Neil, you're getting A's and I'm your buddy. I've even bought you a soda and you got the paper done. Can I just look at yours for some idea?
No. We can talk about it, but you can't look at my paper.
Your homework?
But we can talk about it all you want.
Oh, okay. My point is this. In our society today, we call it okay to have these gray discretions. Not just talking, but maybe more than just even helping me. And so that's okay, possibly. It's like speeding on the freeway. That's okay. When you go to work for me, there's no finals. There's no tests. But you're going to have a test every 3 or 4 hours. And it could take a lot of time. I just mentioned to Bob, or Bob mentioned at the beginning, I have an audit I have to have to United Kingdom. That's a very special audit, following very, very special rules. We've been working on it since last week. Last week was tax deadlines. Monday was. So I had to work on it during tax deadlines. My people were already working 70 hours. I had to find a go-to person and say, are you a go-to person? Can you help me?
Sure.
Okay. And that meant we worked Sunday. I don't like that, but that's what we're going to do. And so I've got them up there in my office right now. I have to have it to the United Kingdom tonight when I leave the office. And so the problem you run into is this comes back to that when you start cheating, taking shortcuts, not doing the work, getting by the easy way, not learning, just being okay. What's going to happen is when you get into my world, my sandbox, I'm going to eject you at 18 months or before. Just period. That's just the way it works. And there's that unwritten rule that when you've had X number of jobs on your resume, for sure I'm not hiring you. And I don't care if you went to Harvard, Stanford, Princeton, or where you went. So it's really important that you succeed. And in this book, What the Best College Students Do, we have 3 different types of learners. Surface, do as little as possible, just getting by. Now that maybe worked in high school. That was maybe okay. But you're going on for your education. You're going on for your career. You're going on to be able to make money and pick a job. Now, if you're just going to be a surface learner, you'll just get the job offered. because you won't have a choice. The next kind of learner is strategic. Aim for top grades, not an understanding. In my job, one of the first things I always do when I interview, no matter who I'm interviewing for, is I want to hire the person who does not just know how, but why. Because how is important. You know, if we're hiring brick masons, I want to hire a person that can put down the right amount of mud to make a neat row of bricks, and then the next row too. But he also needs to know why he slants it in or out. He needs to know why we do those things. Now, a lot of us don't know what we're going to go be doing. So what do you need to be studying? What do you need to be getting A's in? What do you need to get off your behinds about and make sure you're getting the kind of grades? And those are called deep learners. And per Mr. Bain, what's the best college students do? The deep learners, they found out, succeed in life much farther than the ones who just got by or just skating through. I'm not talking about just money, but money is an important element because when you make money, you have other choices. It's not the only one because, you know, but also high-paying jobs tend to have more opportunity. How did I pick up a job in the United Kingdom? Because I'm a go-to guy and I can make it happen. And so that's how I got referred. So to truly succeed in life, per this study, you need to pursue a passion. It's not good enough just to want to. You have to pursue a passion. You have to get comfortable with failure. Not mentioned in this presentation here that Mr. Lambert gave. I've had 7 business ventures, including the one, 9, including the one I have, and 2 of them I failed at. And that really hurt. Because you know what we think of failure? I mean, what do we think of failure?
It's terrible.
Terrible.
Well, when I think of failure, I think of setting my goal, myself out to do stuff like accomplish goals, and then I come up short, or if I don't do what I set out to do.
Yeah. And I went broke. I mean, I had to fire people. I had to pay back bank loans for 2 or 3 years. I had to, take money that I earned in my CPA profession and pay it off to the loans. It wasn't nice. I don't like firing people to begin with, but if you become a business owner, you're going to become a bed and breakfast, was it? And if you have employees, you'll learn how to fire people. So you have to have a passion, comfortable with failure, make a personal connection to their studies. Why do you need to make a personal connection to your studies? One of the best classes I ever took at the University of Utah was Architecture 101. I'm a business person. But the teacher had us go into the class, and he gave us an open book test. He said, I'll give you the same test tomorrow. But here's the question. What did you see when you came in the class? What did you observe? So everybody, everybody, it was a blue day, we had, everybody filled out their test in about 2 minutes. And then he went on with the rest of the class, and we had to turn in the papers. The next day he gave us the same deal. It took 20 minutes, 25 minutes for us to write down what we saw, because we just walked to class, right? We just walked in this building the same way we always do. We didn't see any of the things. We didn't see any of the architecture. We didn't see where the sky or clouds are. It made me look. When I went to Harvard, that's what they made us do, is look. How do you see everything a different way? In your school right now, what we're learning, and I'm an accountant, we learn one right way. What do you teach, Rick?
Critical thinking is one of them.
Is it? Okay. So we learn one right way. And the teacher has a manual, and the manual says, this is what the answer is. That's right in school. And why do we have to have it that way? Because they're trying to teach a principle, maybe an accounting principle, a finance principle, how to calculate return on investment, a management philosophy. They're trying to teach a principle. And so in this case, there's the one right way. But in life, there's no one right way. There's no textbook. There's no instructor. There's no Mr. Lambert sitting at the front of the classroom waiting to tell you what the right answer is. What's this gentleman's name? It's not Max.
Neil.
Neil! It got stuck in there, didn't it? So what's the right way?
Whatever the best way is for you, depending on the situation.
But Neil, I can't be selfish. The best way for me may not be the best way for my company.
Ideally, it would be, because if the company improves, then you're going to improve as well.
Ideally.
If the company does well, then
But that's not the way it works in real life. I've got to make a decision. Mr. Lambert and I are partners, and we've just decided half of you have to be fired. And I'm glad to announce we flipped a coin and he lost. But when you have to do that, and that happens, I'm just joking about having to be fired. But when that happens, that's something we have to do right now. And you know what? And it is Neil, and I'm sorry to have to tell you this, Neil, but you're part of that half. And so the challenge you run into, I'm pretending that type of a thing, but that's exactly how I do it. I don't say I'm sorry, just you're part of that. It's not working out, Neil. That's how you terminate somebody. And the reason you do that is for a lot of reasons. But that's part of the problem. So it's not if it's best. It's not if it's best for the company. What would be best for the company is somehow I could fund the money to float it. But I can't fund the money and have the ship exist. You mentioned I was in the Navy, and in the Navy, that's what they teach you to do. When you're in boot camp, for 2 weeks you drill fires. The reason you drill fires is they have you put on the material, and they light the fire in this other room, and of course it's all set up to be lit. It's not like a fire in that hallway. And you have to go in there, and they're going to close the door behind you. And they're going to lock that door. And no matter how much you panic, beat, they won't let you out. And what they drill in your head is at all costs, the ship has to stay afloat. If a ship of 500 men catches on fire and you won't go in that fire compartment to put it out, I don't care that it costs your life, because I have to save my 500 men. I have to save, and those are the kind of decisions. Now, do we get into those kinds of decisions? No, we're not in the Navy. We don't have ship fires. But we have decisions that are really hard. I hire you. You're a great guy, aren't you?
yeah,
Yeah, you really are. But you didn't go to work for me. Maybe you didn't learn how to work. I don't know. But you just didn't go to work. And I can't tell you how to find that. So one of the things I really want you to do is learn to work. And I mean work. Work hard. Become that go-to person wherever it is you work at. Become that person that people will call on you. Rick and I have a common experience where we worked in this, our dads, on what they called service stations. And he was joking about, and you guys don't know what a service station is, you don't even see them in movies anymore, but it's where a young man would walk out when we were young and would run to the car, right? We would run to the car. He would say, "Good afternoon, Neil. Can I fill it up with ethyl?" That was a brand of gasoline. That was the more expensive brand, you know. And then it would wash your windows and would do all those things. And it was very humbling in a way, but it was the way we did it. But it taught us a work ethic. You need to learn a work ethic. I don't care where you think you're going to go, you're going to work. And if you're successful, I've owned my own business, as Rick said, for a long time. And I still work those hard hours and still have to make that happen and have to do a lot of other things. You'd say, surely by now, being a boss, you don't have to do. No, you have to do them. You just have to learn how to eat humble pie nicely and not make such a fuss of it. So I want to talk about the qualities of being a leader. And outside here, there was a testing thing saying you get these tests. And I really encourage you, if they're free, while you're here at the school, you take them. Are those tests free? Briggs and Stratton or Briggs and Meyer. Yeah, I'd really encourage you to take them. Now, the reason I encourage you to take those tests, and especially if it's free because it takes time, that's all it's going to take, is it'll give you some indication of your weaknesses and strengths. Now, just because you have a weakness now doesn't mean you can't turn it into a strength. So towards the bottom of this page, it says Joe's list of leadership qualities, decision making. Critical thinking, that's what you teach? Yeah, wow. Accountability. Now, accountability is not being an accountant, it's being accountable. It's being that I can count on you doing it. When you set a goal, you'll achieve it. Being a team member, I asked earlier about are any of us part of a team? One of the biggest problems we have in business is it's like herding cats, we call it. A bunch of individuals who have their individual idea, and we're sitting here saying we're introducing this new idea, and everybody says this, and then no one will do anything. Trust. I've got to be able to trust you, and you me. But trust is absolutely an essential. Be profitable for the company and then yourself. Be profitable for the company and then yourself. Too often, I hear people worried about their pay, the days off, their benefits. I mean, I don't have a paid holiday. You know, I don't get paid time off. I bill $275 an hour, and every hour that I can sell, I'll sell. And to the United Kingdom, I get to sell them for $375. And so am I happy to sell those hours? Now that sounds like I must be a millionaire. But the problem is you can't sell all your hours. You can only sell some number. Never stop learning. I didn't go to Harvard until 12 years ago. We're having a reunion. We just had a reunion in Vail, Colorado. And I didn't go to Harvard until I was, you might say, a little bit older. You have to learn to improvise. No plan goes like you think it's going to go. So you have to be able to improvise. And I'm talking about, as an example of improvising, I was on a stand of a jury. Excuse me, I was a witness in a court. And in the particular court, and I hadn't been in a lot of courts at that time, but in the particular court, they wouldn't let me in the courtroom because I might slam my testimony. So they put me in a room adjacent to the courtroom. I could hear everybody talking. So I knew who the judge was by voice. I knew who the two attorneys were by voice. I knew who my client was by voice. I didn't know the other people that they testified. And then they delayed the trial and brought me in the next day. And at that particular position, the jury box sat in front of the judge. So the judge was to my left over here. And the jury was over here to my right. And so the prosecuting attorney would be asking me a question. And I figured out, who am I talking to? The man asking the question or my jury? And I'd never done this. But I knew who was going to rule, the jury, right? So this guy had asked questions, and I'd immediately be looking at the jury, talking to them. And he'd even get mad, because attorneys ask these questions that if you answer, you're wrong. They went to that philosophy training school that no matter what the answer is, you're wrong. And he started objecting. And being polite, you should shut up, because he's objecting. Your Honor, I object, I object. I just kept on talking to the jury. And finally the judge would say, Mr. Leverich, and they'd either accept the objection or not. But I kept on talking to the jury. And at one of the breaks, the judge just, keep it up. Because I was improvising. And whatever I was doing was, I didn't know it was right. But I thought the rules were I was supposed to be quiet when the prosecuting attorney objected. Because that's what it looks like you should be, right? But it's not like in movies like you see. You have to improvise. Results versus activity. All anybody cares about is results. I don't care if you work 20 hours for me. What were the results? What were the outcomes? You have to be a results-oriented person. You have to take the initiative. When somebody walks in my office, I'm up there greeting them, trying to get them to the person they belong to. And I own it. And more than 80% of the time, they're not looking for me. And I don't introduce myself as, hi, I'm the owner. Oh, you're here to see Neil. And so I'll make sure you're available and let you know your client's here and walk him back. And that's taking the initiative. Small way, but you got to take the initiative. From picking up the garbage outside the office to whatever it is. Negotiation. We're taught when we buy cars, when we buy furniture, when we do those kinds of things, there's one kind of negotiation. I'm going to buy a car from you. You have a car for sale. You want it $25,000. I offer you 20. You say,
23,
I offer you 21.
22.5.
That's the way we're taught to negotiate. That's a technique. That's like about out of maybe a couple hundred techniques, that's one of the lower techniques because that's what we're taught. That's the way we're taught. We're taught that that's a, we call it tit for tat negotiation. You say this, I say that, you say this, I say that. And then, in theory, we meet in the middle. That's only one type of negotiation. You need to learn how to negotiate. And negotiation is a key thing. You'll negotiate for your salary. You'll negotiate for days off. You'll negotiate for the next advancement. You'll negotiate to help your company win a position. You'll negotiate in a bed and breakfast for having people stay or having them pay for damage. You're going to negotiate everything. And so learn all the techniques of negotiation. Sales. When I went to the University of Utah, I didn't know, like a couple of you, what I wanted to do. I'd been in the military. And what I knew, and I was a enlisted man, and what I knew being in the military as an enlisted man is the only difference between me and these guys called officers, they all had a college degree. So I figured that out. Get a college degree. I mean, that just made sense. Didn't know what they were in, didn't pay that much attention, but they all had a college degree and I didn't. So I went and got a college degree. And while I was in the military, I figured I wanted to be in business. Most of you think I want to be in business. That makes sense. Decided I wanted to be in management. That seemed to make sense. No, I'll be in management. I mean, I know what that is. I think I don't, but I think I do, right? So I want to be in management. And at the same time, when I was in school, accounting was what was causing everybody to fell out of the College of Business. And so I went, all right, now that I know that, I'm just going to put in more time than anybody else in accounting. I don't know what they tell you today, but they told us 4 hours for every hour in because of the homework and problems that we had at the time. And so I'll put in 6, I'll put in 7, I'll put in 8. I'm just not going to let accounting blow me out. Great. So finally in my electives, and I'm in my first class of my electives, and I'm in my first management class, and my instructor's name was Jack Daniels. And he made a joke, and he says, if you want to get A's, I'm not suggesting anything, but I do drink. And it's like, okay, that's kind of a cute joke. And then he said, on your first job, when you're selling life insurance, and I listened to the rest of the class, kind of going, I didn't go to college to sell life insurance. I went to college, university, to get a profession. So I immediately go up to him after class and said, can I come talk to you? So we walk back to his class. He says, yep, everybody at that time, maybe not true today, everybody at that time at the University of Utah who graduates in management, more than 80% are going to go to work selling life insurance, impressing your mom and dad and learning to sell. And I went, I didn't go to the University of Utah, or not go to the University of Utah to become a salesman. So I dropped out of management, and I was getting A's in accounting. So that must be what my major should be, right? And I didn't know what accounting was either, because I didn't have that experience for sure. But that's how I picked it. Now the irony is guess what I do today? I sell. I sell. And so one of the things I wanted to challenge you with is like negotiation. You need to learn to sell. And I use the example of you're going to sell me your car because I want to buy it. But we're not talking about that. You're on my management team. Your job is to go out there and convince these guys to do what we just decided. Is that selling?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they're not going to want to change. they're not going to want to change. They're not going to want to change. And some will change because you told them or asked them. And some will go, we're changing, but they're not going to change. And so it's selling them on why we should change the way we do whatever it is we're doing. And so even though you're not going to sell used cars, you're not going to sell life insurance, you're going to be a salesperson, and you need to learn the techniques. You need to learn the techniques of how to get their attention. Listening, you don't listen. You've never been taught how to listen. And if you can find any classes or courses on listening, I'd really encourage that you do that. Because you're already worried about what are you going to do for lunch, your next class, the assignment you're not ready for, what are you going to do tonight? Will she take your phone call? Will he take your phone call? You're already into that. Semester's in 2 weeks, it's over with. So you're not listening. And then master your profession. There's an article that just came out about charisma. And you would think that charisma can't be taught. And I would think that too. But according to a recent article from the Harvard Business School, you can teach charisma. It's a 12-step process. And part of it is people just need to rehearse doing it. And what they come to find out, hand movements make up about 50% of charisma. By keeping you, hi, I'm Joe Leverich, and but by keeping you, it makes up a lot of charisma. So you can learn charisma. Now you got to practice it. And so some of those skills I mentioned there, you need to decide that you want to learn them for your own career. But there's not classes in most of those. And there's not classes that'll teach you to master them. But the more you master them, the better off you'll be. That's why I suggested you take those classes, or the test on Myers-Briggs and those types of things, not to find out what you're good at, to find out what you can improve in. Now, possibly you can't improve everything. Rick Lambert mentioned that I write for the Enterprise. And while I was back at Harvard, I wrote a couple of articles. And one of my friends from Australia said, hey, mate, you got to go get this published. I never thought of that. I just wrote an article based on our study. So when I got back, I walked into the Enterprise. I said, you publish this? Sure enough. That was 84 articles ago. Now, what do I get from writing an article? Not a thing. They publish it. I don't get paid. You might say it's a hobby. It's what I learn. It's what I learn. I wrote an article on checklists. And going back to World War II, just before World War II, we invented, America, a plane called the B-17, the Flying Fortress. The first 5 attempts to fly it, everybody on the crew was killed. So you can imagine by the sixth time they were going to take it off, everybody was saying, not me, pick that next crew. And so they picked a crew. And they went through and they tried to figure out, because they didn't keep records like they do today. They didn't have black boxes and they didn't have that kind of thing. And what they did, which is just amazing, is they created a thing called a takeoff checklist. I mean, just amazing. And at the same time, they created a landing checkoff list saying, what do you do to land this thing? And that was the first experimental flight that took off and landed safely. 5 flights, killed everybody in the crew before that. So I can imagine that we go to the airport, and by chance, we overhear the pilot and co-pilot saying, hey, we're so busy, we didn't have a chance to go through the checkoff list. Would you feel good? No, you wouldn't feel good. What did I learn? I learned it's really important we create a checkoff list. So at my firm, we have checkoff lists for new projects that we've ever done. We have checkoff lists for how to bring a client in. We have all these kinds of checkoff lists. And so that's one of those strange things that you learn and gather. So I really want you to master your profession, not kind of maybe, but really master it. And for you, those of you who don't know what your profession is, when you get it, master it. Learn the art of it. Learn not just how we do it, but why we do it. How will only get you the B. Now here's what the difference is. In Salt Lake City, state of Utah, in the state of Utah, the CPAs that are in public accounting do a survey. I'm in the top 5% of income. That doesn't make me neater or better or not. And I don't care that I'm in the top 5% of income, but I work awfully hard. I want to get paid. That gives me then choices. Money's just a tool to me of choices, alternatives. I can afford to do things. My wife and I can take 2 really good trips a year. You know, I can afford to hire people. In addition, we're going to hire 4 people right now. I mean, we're trying to hire them right now. One of the people I talked to last year gave me a resume today. You know, I mean, you know, it gives me choices. And so I can look at those kinds of things. Why do you want to make money? Maybe not for the same reasons I do, but it's the choices. You know, it gives you choices. You're good enough that you can go anywhere. A good friend of mine's a chef at Little America. He runs the Little America. He's been offered to run them all by Earl Holding or the Holdings. Earl's still barely alive. But he's been offered to run all of the restaurants for the Little America entities, but he chooses just to run the one at downtown Little America, not even the Grand. But he says, Joe, I've been in Germany, I've been in France, I've been in Italy. I've been offered jobs by multimillionaires, and I can go anywhere. So I go where I'm happy. I'm happy here. It's not the money. I'm happy here. They let me run my restaurant the way I want to run it. They let me work the line. They let me do those kinds of things. It's not just about money. It's also those other things that make you happy. So although I talked a lot about money, I don't want to turn you off by money, because that's not the end game. The reason I try to make that kind of money is so I can be at the top of my game, because it gives me that chance. Clayton Christensen, anybody hear of him? Am I okay on time?
I'm going to...
You're fine.
Let's work with Max for a minute.
Let's work with Max. Oh my gosh. Max, stand up.
Don't stand up, Max.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. You talked about having to let Max go.
Yep.
Okay. Max is here, and Joe's here. And you've got a difference of your expectations.
Yep, we do.
When you let Max go, do you let him know where he has missed on your list of expectations?
Before we do, we do.
Okay.
We create a contract, verbal contract, with all our employees of very clear expectations. And the first month is like 5 items, but by now it's like 55 items if you've been here any amount of time that you're expected for.
Okay, now Max says to you, Joe, I really like it here. I know that I am weak in this area. Can you help me get better at that area?
Now,
And is this going to happen at the during the 18 months, or is this going to happen?
hopefully it happens there before I make the decision.
Okay, yeah, you're going to be, yeah.
Now, Rick brings up a very interesting point. We're very bad at asking for help. As a society, we don't ask for help. If we go to a restaurant and I'm your food service provider, and for whatever reason we have a new chef, and I don't tell you that, and they served your hamburger overcooked, your French fries cold, and the waiter comes up, food service person says, so how's your meal? And you're going to say, it's fine, because I just want to get rid of you, right? I mean, I've already written this place off. And what he should come up and say, hey, I'm a little embarrassed about this, but we have a new chef, and I'm not sure the orders are coming out the way I'd like them to. Was your hamburger cooked correctly? Were the fries fine? If that's what you ordered. You know, it'd be worse if you didn't even order that, but you know, is that correct? And so he engages me. Coming back to these tasks, you have to engage. And that's one of the reasons you need to take these tests and find out, so you can ask for the kind of help you need. Because I'm not a mind reader. I don't read minds. I sit down with all my employees twice a year, and we create a game plan. Half the time it's my game plan I'm dictating to you. I have this one gentleman I just love because he dictates his game plan to me. And it's great because he's trying to achieve these kinds of things. What do I need to learn? That particular gentleman, he needs to learn how to delegate and how to supervise. Where do they teach that? Where do they teach that? You know, amazingly, out of Salt Lake Community College, Larry Miller campus, they have classes on that,
They do.
and I can send them to those.
Yeah. Critical thinking is one of them.
And I wouldn't have sent them to him, though, if I didn't know that he needed them.
Yeah. Okay, now, I would say that Max is probably going to stay on the second row, but Neil will be on the first row next time that you
Will he?
talk about it. Because,
Oh, yeah, wrong name. Yeah, there we go.
but with this, as you hire and bring people onto your team. Now, I was surprised that some of you haven't played on teams and know how teams work. I spent most of my younger years in baseball. And baseball is probably the hardest sport from a team concept because everybody has to know what to do wherever the ball goes. And it's different with every ball. But with that, that's the same thing that Joe is pointing out here, that no two clients are the same. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Every situation is different. And is that communication vital between you and Neil on what the level of expectation of your client is? He's the one paying your bill. So,
And the issue is we've got to communicate, I mean, as intently as we can, and I got to be able to see through you and be part of that, and not being mean, but be able to really find out those things that are really happening. I deal with customers all the time, and they'll say to me, I want to be profitable. I want to make money. I go, are you willing to fire your daughter? Well, hell no, I'm not talking about that. Well, she's creating a problem. Are you willing to raise your prices? Oh, I can't do that. Oh, yeah. I thought we were talking about making money and being profitable. I have high prices. I'm proud of that. I don't compete. I perform. You want to compete on getting a piece of paper, or you want to pay the lowest taxes possible? You want to get the loan you're shooting for, or you just want to have a financial your bank says doesn't work? That's what I deliver. I deliver the performance. No one wants to buy a tax return. In my business, we call it drill bits. If we went to Home Depot, no one wants to buy a drill bit. They want to buy what a drill bit does. It puts a hole in the wall to hang that picture. In my case, they don't want to buy a financial statement or tax return. They want to buy the result. You know, so I have to be smart enough to know when you come in, I can do that financial statement, and I'm going to charge you $15,000. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'll only do it if you sign this letter that says that you know that you won't get the result you expected, the loan. And I'm willing to do it for $15,000. But I don't want to march to the bank and have the bank say, well, we can't make a loan on that. So it's results. And that's hard to tell somebody because this new bright-eyed person comes bouncing in my office and they expect certain kinds of results, be it a tax audit, outcome with partners. So it's those kinds of things. Sitting across the desk from somebody being really tough, but not tough in a mean way, tough in a loving, caring way.
So what you do when you're going into that loan interview is you have prepped your client and you go with him.
Oh, yes.
And so that you're there to help him with his questions with the banker because you've had experience and he needs that help.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And or the IRS. We never let the client meet the Internal Revenue Service or agencies because they get what we call diarrhea of the mouth. And they want to know about their expenses or something. And I'm cool enough to play poker hard. So I have a really good track record winning. You know, and just little tricks that you learn from having some experience. Being able to improvise is one of them. Being able to stand up and talk is one of them. People say that people don't want to talk, and in fact they fear death more than public speaking. I believe that's true. Overcome it. If you're going to become a leader, a manager, run a company, can you imagine Steve Jobs not talking? He was one of the best people we have of recent memory of presentations. What you don't know is for every presentation, he practiced over 30 hours, often did 5 and 7 takes, had them video clipped, so I could watch them again. So he didn't do it casually, although he made it look casual. He made it look cool. He made me want to go buy an iPhone, an iPad, or whatever it is. But it was done with a lot of practice, a lot of work. You got to practice. You don't get good sitting there and thinking.
Absolutely right.
Am I done with Neil? Because I want to just wind.
Are we done with Neil?
Yeah.
Sure.
So I want to not to wrap it up, but I'm going to be done in about 5 minutes. So there's a gentleman named Clayton Christensen, and also by chance a Harvard guy. And he studied back at Harvard companies that failed, the Sears, the Kodaks, the auto industry companies that failed. And they were studying these, when did they fail? So as Kodak as an example, Kodak failed when it didn't take the challenge of Fujifilm, a Japanese company, seriously. So he wrote this thing about it, and all of a sudden he realized, you know what? Company failure is a lot like our individual failure. You're going to, in a few years, be on your own track of success or failure. You're going to go through divorces, medical issues, all kinds of challenges, open up businesses, have careers get pulled out from underneath you, lose an opportunity. And so he wrote this book, How Will You Measure Your Life? Great little book, fast read. Create a strategy for your life. Know where you're going. Allocate your resources. Work's not the only thing. I work very hard, but I was brought up how to work hard, and so that's what I do. Create a culture. Your culture. Not a culture of whatever company you work for, but create a culture. Honesty, trust, success, go-to person. Avoid marginal cost mistakes. In management and in accounting, we teach marginal cost, the marginal cost of something. But the marginal cost mistake is this, I'll just do enough to get through this. No, do it all the way. Don't do the marginal cost. Remember the importance of humility. We need to be humble. We need to be, be able to be approached, no matter who we are. And then choose the right yardstick to measure yourself with. It's one thing to be successful here. It's another thing to be successful out there. And depending on where you're going to go, and you don't know where you're going to go. So choose the right yardstick. At the bottom of this, I have some articles and books that I have. And some of my favorite ones are Leadership and Self-Deception. It's by the Arbinger Institute, which is by chance just up here. Also, like a great thing about self-deception, how we kid ourselves. Another one is Kotter, K-O-T-T-E-R, on change. He's one of my favorites. And Lencioni, he has multiple titles on 5 dysfunctions of a team and business. And then, unquestionably, I think one of the best books is Robert Giordani. He's out of Phoenix, Arizona, and he talks about influence, how you can present something to get influence in a different way. And so you want to become a master and reader of those kinds of things. They don't teach that in college. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm up for questions. I'll repeat it so you don't think can't hear, because this gentleman here is the photographing this. But other than Neil, because we picked on him, but you'd be the first one I'd pick to ask questions.
Well, the questions I actually have was, what positions, you said you were hiring, what positions are you hiring for?
Accounting positions.
Just entry-level accounting or auditing?
We're a small business firm. So as a small business firm, Neil, what you need to learn is both sides. So you need to learn audit and tax. You need to learn the entirety of the business, even including the individual.
So are you looking for people who already have CPAs or who are working?
We're looking for the right people. Okay? You can ask Burdette and Yearberry. They both know me very well. I'm a tough bastard. Okay? Anybody else have any questions?
Seth, you got a question?
You look like you don't. No.
Actually, yeah. What would be a good entry-level job as a CPA? Would it be like working for the IRS?
Any accounting job's a good entry-level job. I worked for a battery wholesaler. I worked as a night clerk in a hotel. I worked for the federal government downtown. You just need to get experience. Just experience. Go get a job in accounting. If you're going to go into accounting, go get that job. Go get that experience. Learn how business works. You know, because it's one thing to take the class and get A's. It's another thing to apply it. I did a lot of other jobs too. And you learn from those as well. I mean, learn how to provide service to somebody, which is possibly in a fast food job or something, and it doesn't sound like it, but learn it. I know you guys got to get rolling. One last question. I got my business cards up here. If you want to email me, that'd be great. I appreciate your taking the time to be here, and I hope I stimulated you to think, not just blindly go in your career, but think, so you get what you want. Thank you.